So we have this from The Guardian. Earlier, they talked about how Trump is pardoning a former Virginia sheriff who was convicted
Hmm.
of fraud and bribery. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the details about what exactly happened there. First, the man's name was Scott Jenkins. He served as a sheriff in Culpeper County. This is in Northern Virginia for 12 years. And last year in 2024, a jury found him guilty of accepting more than $75,000 in bribes. This is exchange for appointing, like several like businessmen and like auxiliary deputy sheriffs within his office. The
Hmm.
FBI is the one who kind of uncovered this because they kind of confronted him like a sting operation, found everything out, what was going on
Oh,
with him. Um, Prosecutors were saying that he was giving out badges and credentials in return for these bribes. So yeah, Trump has come out and said that he was a victim of an overzealous Justice Department run by Joe Biden. And so he has
oh
just gone
God.
and removed all the charges. This man was going to face 10 years in federal prison, 10 years in prison for accepting these bribes. And now he's going to walk.
Hmm.
So, and again, we're going to be talking about this a little bit more, but because, this is kind of like an ancillary topic to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, this is the same guy who also went and pardoned around like 1,500 people involving January 6th, including people who had violent crimes for what
Yeah.
they did on that day in that riot. This is also somebody who went after, and if you don't know about this one, a man named Ross Albright. He was a founder of an illegal online drug marketplace called the Silk Road. Trump pardoned him. A former Democratic governor who was convicted of corruption for selling President Obama's vacant Senate seat. He pardoned him.
Wow.
And also pardoned three co-founders of a cryptocurrency exchange who pled guilty to violations of the Bank Secrecy Act. So these are the people that Trump has been pardoning. So, Natalie, before I get into my thoughts about all of this,
Yeah.
how was your reaction when you first kind of came across this story?
I mean, a tiger doesn't change its stripes, right? I mean, Trump is a criminal. He's a convicted felon 30 some times over, 34 times over to be exact, but who's counting? And the reality is, I find it interesting who the people are that he's pardoning, what they look like,
Yeah,
and in particular, how it seems to not upset his base. His base that is so concerned with law and order to the point that they're kicking out legal residents of the United States. But when it comes to this stuff, it's just like something ain't white about it. It's just like let's just look at the obvious difference here about who is worthy of a second chance, if we want to call it that, and who is not, and who gets to make that decision in this sort of fascist state, and who does not. I was not in any way surprised. In fact, when you first told me that you wanted to start with this story, I literally just kind of went like, okay, because we've become so desensitized to
yeah,
what he has done. If this had been in any other time and you said, hey, the president, whoever it is going to be pardoning this one person, just that sheriff alone, I would have been like, oh my God, like that
yeah,
is insane. But the fact that he's doing this over and over and over again, including pardoning reality show couple convicted of bank fraud and tax crimes, uh, Todd and Julie Chrisley, which was a big
right.
show in the early 2000s. It's like, am I surprised? No. And I think that in and of itself is the problem.
Yeah. Well, we have had this normalized, right? So
Exactly.
Trump has completely warped reality for so many
Mm-hmm.
people in this country. He is basically, and this is something that you see at his rallies time and time and time again. I unfortunately put myself through the terrible experience of watching, I think, almost over a dozen of his rallies over the years
I'm
as I've
so
been.
sorry.
I wanted to do an episode on Trump, back in the
Mm-hmm.
day when I was in the genesis of the Independent Thought podcast.
Right.
Made myself sit down and watch his rallies. And I've watched a few more since then. And, honestly, I found it to be informative because I think they're a lot more sinister than people give them credit for. People talk about it more
I
as like a
agree.
joke. People talk more about it as like, oh, he's just some idiot rambling, and
Mm-mm.
I think that for me, it feels a lot more sinister than that. He constantly uses the language of like, it's us versus them. He constantly uses the language of like, they're the enemies of the state. I'm for the people. He constantly
Yep.
says that he is protecting everyone. Like, so when they're attacking me, they're actually attacking you. And this is kind of how he has distorted the reality of everything and everyone around him, because now they believe that everything that he does is somehow benevolent. And
Yeah.
anytime that he's criticized, these people have to be wrong no matter what. And the language is reflected everywhere. If you're on social
Hmm.
media, if you are watching like traditional, like, right-wing media now, you see it everywhere. That language is coded everywhere you can see it. I mean, Trump's actions are always being viewed through the lens of he's making America great again. And any kind of attack against him is considered to be just like Trump derangement syndrome. That is the end all be all for these people, right? And so if Trump says that what he's doing is correct, nothing else matters. That's the
Right.
reality that we live in now, Natalie. And I am truthfully, it's mind boggling to me.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, I don't really know how you get through to people that are that far gone.
I don't think you can, Desmond. I think that's the trap we just keep falling into as critically thinking people
Yeah.
that are not in a cult, people that will criticize the person in power regardless of which party they're in, because we're trying to hold our leaders accountable and make them do the will of the people, like do better for us.
Right.
And Trump has only ever wanted to do better for himself. I mean, he would literally throw his own children under the bus if it benefited his bottom line. So I think the problem that we continue to run into is that we're looking at it through not only the lens of critical thinking and that willingness to maybe even be wrong and have to, redirect our opinions and our thoughts based on new information, but also looking at it with a lens of compassion for other people, which he doesn't have. And I think that's what's really challenging if you don't have a personality disorder, if you're not a narcissist, if you're not a sociopath, if you're not a psychopath, is trying to understand that there are some people that do not operate ever thinking about anyone else. And that is really hard to understand. And those are the people most likely to seek out power, and
Yeah.
we continue to reward those personalities through this mechanism of capitalism that can only be held up by these different hierarchical structures. And then we all sit around and scratch our heads and we go, well, why didn't this work out for us? What did we think was going to happen?
It's a great
You know?
question. It's a great question. And speaking of which, if anyone has any questions or any comments that they want to post into the chat, please go ahead and do so. So the people who are hitting the relentless amount of likes right now, I want you to know that you are appreciated. Definitely like that.
It's not me. Look, both
It's
hands.
I want you to know that you are appreciated. We do see all the hearts coming through. But Natalie, I just remembered that the fifth topic that I was like, didn't we have a fifth
Oh,
topic? Right, the Trump speech that you wanted to refer to.
yes.
Should we fit that in here?
We can. Yeah, absolutely. There was I was kind of leaving it out because we had so many other, God, there's so much to talk about, but I
Yeah,
just
yeah. We
wanted
could
to,
probably feel like the tail end of this
yeah,
conversation.
we can
It
just kind of
flows
like,
into it.
we can
Yeah.
flow into it. Trump gave a commencement speech, you guys, over the weekend for Memorial Day, and like many presidents, spoke at West Point,
Yeah.
which is like the, place for people with military pedigrees to attend.
Right.
And he has no business being there, in my opinion, but he is the commander in chief, at least on paper. So he was there, and I guess it was a very concerning speech. They said he kind of went off on a very long tangent about trophy wives and I guess yachts or something. And people, I guess, in the audience were dead silent. It was very uncomfortable. And you could really hear the cognitive decline as he was speaking. And my frustration with this is twofold. One is that I am so tired of this man getting to just rattle on anything that he feels, this stream of consciousness, old grandpa energy at the dinner table where we have to let him say a few words before we can all eat kind of thing. And no one ever calls him on it. But people are still talking about Biden's cognitive state, and the man hasn't been in office since January. And don't get me wrong, you guys, this is me I am not in any way a Biden apologist. He never should have ran again. There was a whole mess, but he's not in power and they're still so sort of stuck on him. But it's like, your dude is literally falling apart at the mental seams. Have you seen the rants of his Truth Socials lately? It's all caps all the time. And his speech at West Point really just hit it home for me, how unbelievably unhinged he is and how we are all just at this deranged man's mercy. And it really just freaked me out. And a lot of people were also freaked out. If you're at West Point and those people aren't really rallying around you and you're the commander in chief, this was really supposed to be your time to shine. Yeah. That is concerning. Desmond, did you see anything about it? And did you have any thoughts on it?
I mean, I did see it. And I mean, my thoughts about it is like, this is just who Trump is at this point. You know, I mean,
he's like, not mentally well. I think we need to start saying it more.
He's
obviously.
Never been mentally well.
I think it's gotten worse, though. I really do.
No, he's definitely getting older. It's obvious. I mean, when you watch videos of him speaking now versus speaking in his first term, it's obvious how much of a decline there is. You know, so I think that attacking Trump from every angle is definitely the way it needs to be. I mean, to your point about like how people don't talk about this enough, I think right now, so many people in the media just don't even know what to do with Trump.
Yeah.
To a degree, it feels like everyone's like tried their best to find different angles to attack him over the years. And it's largely just been ineffective. And so no one kind of knows what they're supposed to do anymore. You know, I feel like last year when Governor, Tim Walz was coming out and calling him and a bunch of other, people in the MAGA circle, weirdos and pointing out all the different things that they do and they believe in. I think that was probably the most, like, I guess that anyone's ever kind of like carved in and actually really offended Trump and made him feel self-conscious. It was obvious how much that was really bothering him. But for the most part, I don't think people really know how to come after Trump, And it's just been a lot of errors over the years. But I think, more than anything, substantive attacks are definitely just the way to go. And just pointing out the obvious, really. You know, I think the problems that we've had over the years attacking Trump is I think that people attack Trump for the wrong reasons. I think as time goes on, I think more and more people have discovered what those wrong reasons were. And people have been finding more, I guess, like more poignant attacks for him, but I think too many in the mainstream media still just don't really know what they're doing, which is why, as I always say to everyone, support your local independent journalists because they really know what they're doing.
It's true. Just like
they really do. They really do. I agree. It's a whole different story, but the Democrats right now are actually apparently considering tens of millions of dollars in investments into new media going into the next election. So I think they might be starting to finally, they're considering. I guess some people in the party are still unsure about it, but it is being considered now.
Maybe after we lose a few more times. I can't with these people. I can't. I can't.
Maybe that'll be a topic for Friday.
I think it needs to be because I got some thoughts, but I want them to be more prepared than the half crazy stuff I could say right now. But I want to segue into the next thing, and I want to talk about the Senate bill updates because what I think you said is important. And also, yes, we don't know how to deal with Trump media, collective media, right? But I think sometimes because he is so distracting, it allows the Senate and the House to get away with things. And then it's like, oh, well, Trump wants this, or Trump said this, or Trump did an executive order. But it's the Senate and the House that are actually the ones still passing bills, making laws and passing them. And the fact that this reverse Robin Hood bill isn't totally dead yet, and it's one of the worst pieces of legislation I truly have ever witnessed. And no Republican should want anything to do with this. It is antithetical to a Republican platform, at least an old school one, in my opinion. It's complete government overreach. It's spending like there's no end in sight. There are so many issues with it that I would think would offend most Republicans from a
Yeah.
philosophical perspective. The fact that it's like, oh, we're calling this, Trump's whatever bill allows the Republican Party to not have to take ownership over the shit that they are trying to feed the American people themselves. Yes, Trump can say he'll support this bill, but we both know Trump's never read this bill. He's never going to read this bill. He probably doesn't even know what is really in this bill. But
No.
the Republicans are in power, especially the Mike Johnsons of this chaotic fascist regime. They know that. They know if they just tell the president, here, just sign this, he's going to do it. So I think we sometimes give them too much leeway because everybody is so focused on, well, what crazy thing did Trump say today? Meanwhile, over here, they're literally taking away your health care.